Well, folks, it was a big day. Jensen actually just stepped off stage about an hour or two ago. He showed off some absolutely game-changing products and new services that are going to change NVIDIA's future forever. And so we're going to talk about exactly what was shown off here, why these are such big things. We'll speak about if NVIDIA is a stock you have to own at this point in time. We'll speak about also, I used to own NVIDIA stock back in the day in the public account. We're going to speak about in today's video if I'm looking to actually add NVIDIA back to the public account now at this point in time, and I'll take you through all of that very complicated stuff there, okay? But at first, I want to speak about Tesla stock in this video because two game-changing things happened here today in regards to Tesla. The stock price was up quite considerably. It was up over 6 percentage points here today. We were up about $17,000 in the public account on Tesla here today, okay? So we'll speak about what exactly is going on there and some game-changing stuff for Tesla, okay? All I ask in return, as always, guys, smash a like and make sure to subscribe to the channel here. That's all I ask. I hope you can do that for me here today. Less than 10% of people go out of their way to hit the like button. So I appreciate the 8 to 9% of you guys that aren't too good for that. Okay. I appreciate you guys in a huge way. And the rest of you guys, the 90% plus, come on, man. That's all I ask. You can't just smash a like. You can't just make sure you subscribe. I appreciate you. Okay. And I also filmed you guys a brand new workshop, goes into how much money you need to retire. It looks like over 2,000 you guys have got to enjoy that. It's absolutely free. Pin comment down there if you want to enjoy that after today's video. Okay. This was just worth mentioning before we get into Tesla here. Money market assets is a new all-time high in history, folks. Yes, well over $6 trillion. It looks like we're climbing to $7 trillion now at this point in time, okay? So, Tesla stock up huge today. What's going on here? Well, two big game-changing things for Tesla are going on simultaneously, and really they've been developments over the past, I would say, 48 to 72 hours, okay? First off, huge for Tesla. So, I tweeted this out about, if they still call it tweeting, I guess they call it posting now or whatever. But 23 hours ago, I've had multiple people tell me they're extremely impressed with full self-driving, version 12. They tell me it's unreal how much Tesla has improved FSD in the past few months. Very good to hear. And we'll get into the specifics in just a moment in regards to what's going on here, okay? But essentially, starting really Friday and throughout the weekend, massive amounts of Tesla customers were able to get the new FSD beta, okay? And so all of a sudden, tons of people got this 12.3, which is probably the most hyped FSD I've seen in a long time. Maybe ever. I don't ever remember there being so much hype around a new Tesla FSD ever. So that's automatically good when you got hype around it going in. That means the hype's coming from somewhere. That means it's likely people that were very early in testing it, talking with other folks. And so there was a lot of hype going into this. And so thousands and thousands of customers got access to this over the weekend. Okay. Michael Dell posted this here. He says, super impressive. Tesla FSD 12.3 is like a human driver. It is. And, that's a important person to say something positive like that. By the way, I thought this was just worth mentioning. This was motivational because I had to make sure that was actually Michael Dell's profile, and it was, and just something motivational for you guys. I started Dell Tech 37 years ago with $1,000. Revenues in 1984 were $6 million. Last year, revenues were $94.2 billion. Impossible is nothing. I appreciated that overall, okay? So here's what I'm hearing personally from folks. Basically, what they're saying, if I could just make it as simple as possible for everybody, okay? What I'm hearing from folks is basically driving is more natural than ever before, which there's always been a complaint about FSD since it basically came out that it wasn't natural enough. It drove too much like a robot rather than a human. And from what I'm hearing, this is by far and away the most natural driving FSD we've had. Also, a lot of folks are saying it's easier to trust. Now, maybe some of that goes back into if it's driving more natural like a human, it's easier to trust overall, right? And so that's a huge step in the right direction because for some folks, they have trust issues with FSD, right? And so if it's easier to trust, that's a huge win for Tesla. And from the other gist of it is basically Tesla's on this last 1% to 2% of driving now at this point in time. They'd got it down to the last 5%, but now it seems like the last 1% to 2%. Meaning essentially, if you have an hour-long drive, okay, maybe you have to help the car out for maybe 1 or 2 minutes out of a 60-minute drive somewhere, okay? So, and we could take that even down. If it's a 30-minute ride, it's a lot less. If a 15-minute ride. So that's great. We're on that very, very last leg at this point in time. So Tesla's clearly making a lot of progress here, right? Now, I take you guys back to what happened in the summer of 2023, this past year, right? Musk, on the conference call, he basically said Tesla would buy as many Nvidia AI chips as they could possibly buy, right? But, Nvidia obviously has a lot of customers outside of just Tesla. This was specific out of Elon Musk. He says, we're using a lot of Nvidia hardware. We'll continue to we'll actually take Nvidia hardware as fast as Nvidia will deliver it to us. Tremendous respect for Jensen and Nvidia. This is Elon Musk talking, they've done an incredible job. And frankly, I don't know if they could deliver us enough GPUs. We might not need Dojo. That's intriguing, but they can't. They've got so many customers. They've been kind enough, nonetheless, to prioritize some of our GPU orders. I mean, here's Tesla spending fortunes of money on these chips, right? And along with other companies as well. And they're like, oh, I'm so fortunate. Thank you. You're so kind to send me these chips. Thank you so much for letting me spend $500 million on these chips, $200 million, $6 billion. Thank you. Right? Now, guys, real quick there, side note for NVIDIA. Is there ever something more powerful than what I just showed you right there? We have the richest man in the world who's basically saying, oh, you're so kind to send us your chips and let us spend our money with you. Is that not the most powerful thing you've ever heard in the business world? I've never seen anything like that. When Elon said that in the conference call, I was like, oh my gosh, like NVIDIA's really got it like that. For Elon Musk to bow down and say something like, they've been kind enough to give us some chips. Oh, he's so kind. I'll put it like this, right? Imagine you go to McDonald's. Well, you go to McDonald's, like no one's like, oh, I got to meet the chef back there in the back room of the McDonald's. I'm so thankful. Oh my gosh, you've been so kind to sell me this Big Mac here today. No one does that. Okay, no one does that. However, if Gordon Ramsay cooked you a meal, you would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for this. This is so awesome. How did I get so lucky? Gordon Ramsay's personally cooking me a meal. This is amazing, right? You'd be bowing down. But imagine you're another super famous chef and you're a super famous chef that's bowing down to another super famous chef, right? That's a whole different level of respect there. Whole different level of respect. Now, my guess is Tesla got their hands on these new NVIDIA AI training chips, right? Likely H100s. At some point in the second half of 2023. That's my guess. Maybe they started getting their hands on some in the first half, but I'm guessing they really got their hands on them in the second half of 2023, got everything up and rolling. Which means if you got your hands on the chips in the second half of 2023, then that means 2024 and 2025 are your huge years of progress. And to finish this last 1% to 2% of driving that needs to be finished, right? And to get FSD to the point where literally you don't need a human even in the seat, right? Because this is a last leg that NVIDIA's trying to conquer here. This last leg, NVIDIA needs to get, Tesla needs to get to the point where you don't even need a human in that front seat. It is that trusted. That's where Tesla's trying to get over this next 2 years. Okay? That's the only way robotaxi is going to take off, is if we can get the car to drive so dang good that it's better than a human by far and away, and you don't even need a human up in that front seat. You don't even need a steering wheel on the car. And so that's my thought process here in regards to that, right? Now, I posted this inside the private group. I said, you guys know how I have the idea of $99 a month for FSD, which I think is still like Tesla should go there over time. I don't know when they do that. Right now they want $199. People are used to always spending less than $100 on subscription. So, I think it would be good if we can get it down to $99 a month. But someone came up with a pretty genius idea, actually in the comments section of one of my videos. You might think I look at the comments. I do. I read through the comments. And by the way, thanks for all the comments on the reaction channel the other day in regards to my elbow. I appreciate that. But someone came up with a pretty genius idea. First month free. I think that would be so smart, as basically everyone would at least give it a try. Plus Tesla would get massive amounts of data from that. Management needs to get on that, in my opinion. And I think, yes, it's, free month subscription is genius. Get everybody used to using it. Get everybody to try it out. Worst case scenario is people try it out and they don't like it and they cancel. Okay. But Tesla still got a bunch of data from people using it over that month, right? Which still helps train the AI models. See where I'm going with this? And so I think Tesla needs to get on this ASAP. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that will be pleasantly surprised by what they see in FSD and go ahead and say, oh yeah, I'm going to stay signed up for this. This is pretty awesome. I like this experience overall, right? But they got to do the first month free, in my opinion, if they really want to scale it to some crazy numbers overall, right? So we'll see where that happens. I'm hoping at some point this year, they go ahead and adopt something like that. If they don't do it this year, I hope next year, because a lot of people are, they're uneducated on FSD, or they're like, scared of it, or, free trial helps out tremendously in regards to that, right? Now, the second thing that happened that's absolutely huge for Tesla. Look at this. Tesla stock rallies as prices for Model Y EVs will increase in April. Oh, baby. Okay. Who called this? If you guys watched my Tesla video I produced for you guys, 4 days ago or so, is Tesla stock in trouble? We spoke super in depth across the board in regards to Tesla, and I told you guys I think margins will bottom in the first half year of 2024, and they'll increase in the second half. And why did I tell you that? I gave you a bunch of different reasons of bringing down cost, and then one of my other reasons was, guess what? They're gonna start increasing prices again. And a lot of people thought maybe I was crazy in regards to that, or at least some people thought I was crazy, and now people are like, oh, yeah, maybe Jeremy was onto something there. Maybe they are going to start increasing prices. And guess what? That's what it looks like it's going to be the situation. They're going to start actually increasing prices again. And it won't even have to wait till the second half of the year. They're already going to start in the first half of the year, right? Which means margins will bottom in the first half of the year, just like I said, right? Plus, Cybertruck, one of the other big reasons, Cybertruck right now is going to be likely a headwind to margins. In the second half of the year, I think Cybertruck's going to move to being a tailwind to margins. And so that's going to be, or at least kind of a neutral in regards to margins overall, which is going to be very bullish for Tesla overall. So, what I said there, I think it's starting to already come to fruition a little bit. Now, I was buying Tesla stock on Friday. And if you're part of my Patreon, that's linked in the description, you got to see that. You got to see the stocks I was buying, because you get to see the stocks I'm buying and selling every week. And Tesla was one of the stocks I was buying, right? Now, this is looking at the public count, my Tesla position, which is my big Tesla position. It's pretty bullish when I'm buying Tesla. I'm only down, I bought this stock on and off since 2019, and I'm only down on one set of lots ever in regards to public count for Tesla overall. Every other one has always been a moneymaker. So whenever I'm out there buying Tesla stock, it's usually one of the most bullish signs you could ever imagine. Let's just put it that way, because I understand this company on a high level. I've understood it for a long time, and I know when I'm getting very, very attractive pricing on the stock. And here recently, the price has been very, very attractive. I'll just put it that way. So, the moral of the story is Tesla's in a great position. FSD continues to make tremendous progress. And in a time period where some are giving up on it, I think they're making the worst decision with giving up on FSD now. Because I believe over this next year, the progress is going to be tremendous. And I wouldn't be surprised if within a year, it's driving way, way safer than a human driver overall, which is going to bode very well for insurance rates as well. Because, man, insurance rates are going up. And by the way, your insurance is about to go up more in a few months. I know. Don't ask me how I know, but I'm just going to tell you, your car insurance is going up in a few months, okay? Nvidia. So, let's speak about what's going on here with Nvidia, and I'll tell you if I'm about to start buying the stock now at this point in time, and, everything in regards to that. First off, check this out. I mean, this is a are you kidding me? An NVIDIA event has George Lucas and Kendrick Lamar and Nas and Trevor Noah and Ashton Kutcher and all these folks at it. That's just crazy. You think about that for a moment. It's an NVIDIA event, and you got these sorts of folks showing up for it. That's big time. Check this out here. This puts it into context, right? I saw this on X out there. The NVIDIA, it had to rent out an arena for this event. You couldn't even get hotel rooms anywhere remotely close. Everywhere was sold out. It was where the San Jose Sharks play. I mean, that's just incredible. And there was not a vacant seat in that place. Everybody was dead set. You couldn't even, people were like, I'm not even going to the bathroom. I'm going to hold it. I'm making sure I don't miss a second of this. Jensen, I mean, shoot. You would have thought it was a Taylor Swift concert. You got to be flipping my flapjacks. Now, there's a bunch of big things that happened. The biggest thing I thought personally personally was actually when they were speaking about what they're going to do and the progress they're going to make in regards to robots, okay? Nvidia is working to bring AI robots to real life. On Monday, the chip maker announced the project Groot foundation AI model built to create better performing humanoid robots. Nvidia also unveiled a system on a chip named Thor to be used for robots. The quote, the enabling technologies are coming together for leading robotics around the world to take giant leaps toward artificial general robots. Oh, maybe that Tesla robot thing might end up actually being something after all. Groot-powered robots will be designed to understand human language and emulate human movements through observation. Now, it was fascinating because it's all like kind of hit me and I put all the pieces together while I was doing something so simple, but yes, so freaking complicated. While I had my headphones on listening to this, right? So, I'm eating chips and salsa while I'm doing this, right? And my first off, it was like the end of the bag, you know, when you get down to the end of the bag of chips and it's like broken little teeny pieces and they're like all these different sizes and like little pieces and stuff like that, right? And I got my spoon and I'm putting the salsa on and I'm listening to Jensen talk about what they're going to do to change the robotics industry. And I was thinking about how complicated what I was doing was. I'm having to get the perfect amount of salsa, put it on the chip at the perfect angle, without spilling it all, right? Put it in my mouth, and I was thinking about how ridiculously complicated it is. There's no one other than humans can do what I was doing there, right? There's no other animal that could like perfectly get the spoon, put the perfect amount of salsa so it doesn't spill all over the place, and you know, at the right angle and all those sorts of things. And there's no robot today that can do that. And that's kind of sad. There's no robot on the planet that could actually just go up there and move as naturally as I move and do it as quick as I do it and whatnot. It's impossible today for such a simple task. And yet machines can do the most complicated math that you could ever conceive. And a machine could beat me at chess in less than 30 seconds. But yet it couldn't do what I was doing in terms of putting the perfect amount of salsa on a chip and just eating it and just making it look very natural, right? What I think is an easy task, but ultimately is a ridiculously complicated task. And us humans, we do these ridiculously complicated things on an everyday basis. I mean, think about driving, for instance, right? I mean, you know, look at how much trouble almost everybody's basically thrown in the towel in regards to trying to create cars that drive themselves. Tesla's one of the few that's actually standing strong and like, we're going to actually figure this out and we're going to solve this. And even Tesla still is trying to figure out the last 1% to 2%. They spend ridiculous sums of money. So us humans, we do these ridiculously complicated things, and you've got to get better at training the models so then they can basically emulate exactly how we do. And I imagined like a robot basically just acting as natural as I do and just doing what I do and those sorts of things. And all that is going to end up happening through Nvidia chip systems over time. And so that's what's actually needed to, I think, have the robot industry really take off in a real way. So it's something other than just, you know, we're moving this car door from here to over here. Okay, if we're going to take this to a real huge scalable level, we've got to have the training systems to train these things. No different than OpenAI can train across massive amounts of images, videos, text conversations, and things like that. This is like training in the real world, like how humans interact, how humans move, and those sorts of things, right? So that's obviously what's needed. Now, then, in my opinion, I don't think a lot of people are even going to understand what was going on there in regards to robotics. That, to me, was the biggest thing. I'm like, that's crazy. Like, that's the biggest game changer. But what I think some people will begin to understand is we need bigger GPUs. Nvidia on Monday announced a new generation of artificial intelligence chips and software running AI models. The new AI graphics processors, named Blackwell, are expected to ship later this year. The announcement comes as companies and software makers still scramble to get their hands on the current generation of H100 chips, right? Now, you know, I could go through all the stats and data, but I don't even think like 90% plus of people would understand all those, what we're going to go through. The bottom line is understand these Blackwell chips are ridiculously powerful. They can do way more than like anybody could imagine. Let's put it that way. Amazon Web Services is going to build a server cluster worth $20,000 20,000 of these chips. And it's insane. And you think about how expensive these chips are going to be. I mean, my gosh, guys. You know, when we're talking these customers are spending money, we're talking they're spending, you know, on some of these new chips, they could be easily spending $50,000, $100,000 a chip for some of these new generation chips, right? It's insane. Nvidia didn't provide a cost for the new GB200 or the system it's used in. Nvidia's Hopper-based H100 costs between $25,000 and $40,000 per chip, with the whole systems costing as much as $200,000 according to analyst estimates, right? The bottom line is these new chips are going to be far more expensive than the old chips. You think Nvidia is going to sell those much more powerful chips for a cheaper cost? No, they're going to sell them for much more expensive cost, right? The companies are forced to buy them because if they don't, their competitors will get ahead of them. So you either spend and you buy the most powerful things or you will fall behind, right? So ultimately, what I came to the conclusion with here is Nvidia's revenue train is not stopping this year. It's not stopping next year either. I think at this point in time, if you're thinking about Nvidia going backwards with revenue, I think you've got to push all the way out to 2026 at this point in time. And, you know, if you're bearish on Nvidia, you've got to hope maybe in 2026 their revenues start going down in 2027. Because looking at this logically, I don't see Nvidia's revenue train stopping. Not this year, and probably not next now at this point in time, folks. Because I'm telling you, they're going to sell these chips for a lot more. The big dogs are all basically, like I said, forced to buy them. It's not like you really have an option to say, oh, no, I'm going to skip that. Okay, skip that and get beat. It's not like there's an option there. You skip it, you get beat, right? Now, this might be even bigger than the first two things I took you through in terms of what it means for Nvidia's stock price, okay? Stock price now we're talking. Business model now we're talking. Nvidia Inference microservice. Nvidia also announced it's adding a new product named NIM, which stands for Nvidia Inference Microservice, to Nvidia Enterprise Software Subscription. I'll explain why this is huge in just a moment. NIM makes it easier to use older Nvidia GPUs for inference or process of running AI software, and will allow companies to continue to use the hundreds of millions of Nvidia GPUs they already own. Inference requires less computational power than the initial training of new AI model. NIM enables companies that want to run their own AI models instead of buying access to AI results as a service from companies like OpenAI. The strategy is to get customers who buy NVIDIA-based servers to sign up for NVIDIA's Enterprise, which costs $4,500 per GPU per year for a license. $4,500 per GPU per year. And folks, like that's basically like straight profit, okay? And when you take into account the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even more GPUs that these big customers have, maybe even in the millions, and you run the math on that, oh my gosh, NVIDIA is going to start banking money off software. People have been wondering, how's NVIDIA going to make money off software? And now it's starting to become a little more clear that NVIDIA is going to be making huge money. Not this year. This year, even next year, you won't see like crazy software money, but as you get into 26, 27, and future years, that money's going to start pouring in, right? So this is absolutely massive. And the reason this is so massive for the stock price is NVIDIA's always been a stock that's Mr. Up and Down, I call it, right? Look at the movements of the stock. It'll be up 125% and then the next year down 50%, right? It was up 81% and then down 30%. It was up 131% and then it was down 17, 10, and 10, right? And so that's NVIDIA. It's one of these stocks that would always go through some insane bullish cycles and then some insane bearish cycles. And the reason being is because they were only hardware related. Well, now that NVIDIA could start pouring in money on the software side, right? It will start to slowly be viewed as more of a SaaS-like business model with chips on top of it. It'll start to be viewed a little bit more like Apple is nowadays. And Apple gets this huge premium on the stock. Microsoft gets a huge premium on the stock. Did you know Microsoft's forward PE is around the same as NVIDIA? Did you know that? Now, that should not be. Microsoft's got decent growth. Nvidia's got ridiculous growth. Microsoft's a stable, good company. Nvidia's a game-changing, world-changing company. There's a difference, right? And so those stocks shouldn't even trade remotely close to the same forward piece. But they do because people say, Nvidia, maybe it goes up another 100% from here, but then it's going to have a big 50% crash, right? Because it's so hardware related. If all of a sudden you can start pouring in the money, regardless if people are ordering chips at that point in time or not, oh my gosh, you're doing awesome. And so this is a huge game changer for Nvidia's stock price. Now, another thing became apparent to me watching Jensen on that stage here today. And, obviously Steve Jobs was the guy, right? He was seen as the leader when it came to technology for really since the late 90s all the way until, his passing in 2011. And he was really seen as the guy that could somehow make nothing out of something. Or something out of nothing, I should say. He could somehow make something out of nothing, right? He was seen as this guy that just could create a new industry, get the people together to work on this, and just, it's like something that wasn't there before, and all of a sudden it's this huge thing. And it's like, how did that happen? I mean, there was nothing there, and now it's all of a sudden this big thing, right? And obviously I would say he's the most critical person to the mobile revolution, right? Tablets, smartphones, all those sorts of things. If he's not there, do those things ever take off the way they did without Apple? I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. We'll never know, the answer to that, right? But it became very apparent that Jensen is the Jobs of the modern day, right? It became very apparent to me that he's got the world's attention. He is the coolest in regards to the tech sector. Everybody really wants what he has. And he's helping make these new industries and these new things happen that people are just like, dang, I couldn't imagine that, right? And just having those moments where it's like, whoa, they're doing what? Like that's crazy. Those iPhone type moments when you saw that phone for the first time and Steve Jobs showed that off and it was like, what? What is this? This is crazy. This is insane. This is awesome. And Jensen's now doing that with his events, right? And so that became apparent to me as well watching that, right? Now, next thing I'll say is, I'm going to quote this, okay? It's a cheat code of a company. It's a Jeremy Lefebvre quote right there, okay? It's a cheat code of a company. Nvidia is a cheat code. Their workforce is so good and their leader is so good at that company that every time you try to count them out, they come up with the next big thing that's way bigger than the last thing was. And I've watched Nvidia over this past decade. It's actually more than a decade now at this point in time. And they've just done it again and again and again. Every time you think, Nvidia's best growth days are behind it, they come out with something new. And the new thing is way bigger, way better, and way more impactful to the company than the last thing was. It's a cheat code of a company. And so if you think today was the last time Nvidia is ever going to show off some new way of making money on the hardware side or the software side, you're sorely mistaken. This is not the last time, and they're going to have another event and another event, and at the end of the day, keep growing that business bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Now, the other fascinating thing with Nvidia is the stock doesn't trade rich. And I spoke about kind of, this versus Microsoft. I mean, the stocks trade somewhat in the same ballpark in terms of forward P, and that just shouldn't be like that, right? Because of Nvidia's growth rates. And to see this company trading at, let's call it roughly a 38 forward P right now, when I think about the revenue and margin and net income opportunity this company has over this next many years, because remember, these trends we're talking about here, this isn't going away. Like, they're just getting bigger and bigger, right? The need for AI chips is not like just going to go away. Like, that's going to become a much bigger need 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years from now to train robots. Like, we're still in the first inning of that game, second inning of that game. Imagine where that's going to be many years out. And so the forward P here, I'm like, Nvidia should be trading at least double or triple that forward P here today, folks. You look at this company, gross margins, 75% plus. You're looking at net margins, 50% plus. I mean, these are just ridiculous numbers, right? So I'm starting to view Nvidia very similar to an Amazon or Meta type company. It needs to be in every single portfolio. It really does. And so that puts me in this position with the public count. I've got to start a position in Nvidia in the public count. I've got to do it. Like, I just feel like I can't not be part of this. When I think about how much growth this company has over this next decade, to just say, oh, the stock's up a lot in the past year, so therefore I don't want to buy it. It's just a very caveman-like mentality. Oh, the stock's up a lot, I don't want to buy it. No. At the end of the day, you got to look at the valuation, and you got to think about where this company's growth is going over this next 5-10 years. And I see a very bright next 5 to 10 years for Nvidia, and I see a company that you can't compete with them. You can't compete with them. The more I've watched over, especially over this past year, year and a half, the more I'm like, companies like Intel and AMD are behind. They're way behind. And then, believe me, all these other big tech companies would love to eliminate Nvidia so they don't have to spend so much with Nvidia all the time in terms of these chips. But, you know, you hear about Meta trying to compete and create their own chips, and Tesla and other companies I personally own. I'm just going to tell you, it's not happening. Nvidia's out in front of all these guys by many times years. So these other companies are trying to catch up to maybe, let's say, an H100. By the time you catch up to that H100, Nvidia's already 2-3 chips past that. So you're playing like a game of trying to catch somebody's shadow. And if anything, I'm looking at Nvidia, I'm like, they might actually be extending the lead here rather than these other guys catching up. And so what they've got going on there is magical. That's all I can say. They got the magic. They got the magic. And it feels like a stock that I have to have in my portfolio. Because at the end of the day, do I think Nvidia is going to 400 or do they think it's going to 1500? I think it's going to 1500. And the more I think about this, the more I think about it, you know, years ago I made a prediction that I thought Nvidia would be a $10 trillion plus company someday, market cap wise. And the more I'm looking at it, I'm like, I can actually see it. I can actually see how Nvidia becomes a $10 trillion plus company. When you start running the numbers, now you got the subscription service, right? $4,500 per year per chip. And you think about the cash flows that are going to start pouring in, that if they choose to, they can use it on share buybacks. They've got arguably the most talented tech team in the world. If they don't have the most, it's certainly one of them. They're going to have so much cash flow coming in over this next few years that if they want to buy out other game-changing companies that could help them expand into other verticals, they can do that. So I'm just looking at it across the board and I'm like, I can see it. Like, I can literally see how this company becomes a $10 trillion plus company. I think it's going to pass Microsoft. I think it's going to pass Apple in terms of market cap. And from there, if anything, it could accelerate its lead. And so, you know, we'll see. All I know is, man, oh man, you know, I've been telling people since the stock was like 150, don't get in the way of this thing. It's a freight train. And then people are still trying to get in the way of it. And I'm just like, whew, I think you're making a big mistake there, okay? All right, guys, appreciate you joining me. As always, much love. Get my free new workshop. That's going to be pinned comment down there. 2,000 plus people have gotten that already, gotten great feedback on that. You know, how much money you need to retire, quit your job, all those sorts of good subjects it covers in that one here today. Pin comment down there. Much love and have a great day.